see. Fucking A, man. Same dude. Same dude. All right, so we got official numbers for the Ghost of Yote sales. Okay. I don't know if y'all seen this, but apparently Ghost of Yote sold 3.3 million copies. Okay. You see, Ghost of Yote has now sold over 3.3 million copies. It's time to settle this, gamers. Ghost of Yote sales numbers have been controversial. 3.3 million copies in 30 days, and Sony says big smash hit success. But is it really, or is it just a big cope? Like and retweet if you think it's a success, and then a success. Comment below if it's a flop. He turned the comments off because he's trolling. Ghost of Yote sells 3.3 million in its first month, officially a commercial success, further proving that a lot of the culture warrior noise is really just online. If you make a good product, people will buy it. Simple. People hoping it will flop will change narratives now. I responded to Mighty Keith on this because what they try to do, what these people try to do, including Mighty Keith, is they try to take what they consider to be one victory and try to use it as like this big, like, overarching narrative. Oh, like it just proves the culture warrior nonsense is just online. That is a lie. That is a lie. Okay. People talk about this in real life. I'm around people all the time that while they're not talking about it, they're not getting paid to talk about it on YouTube. They're not discussing it amongst family members. They do talk about it. If you bring it up, they will talk about it. Now they may not be talking about Ghost of Yote, but there's regular people in everyday life that have come across the Ghost series, and be like, man, what happened to the boys Jin Sakai? Why they put a female there? They might not be talking about it as in depth as we are talking about it, but they're absolutely positively talking about it. Okay. Now here's the thing. I made a little short yesterday talking about how both sides are coping. This is a cope, but I'm gonna talk about it more in depth on my side. So on this side of the fence, the controversy surrounding Ghost of Yote is pretty simple. And I'll say it like this. What does entertainment studios and companies do? What are they known for doing? What is the hardest thing to do when it comes to art and entertainment? The hardest thing to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to come up with a hit. That's the truth. I don't know whether you know that or not, but the hardest thing to do is to come up with a hit. It's even harder to come up with a hit based on a new IP. So when a studio hits on a new IP, what do they normally do, chat? What's going on, Beach Cap? I see you. What do they normally do? They double down. They triple down. They quadruple down. They double down on that project so hard, or that IP so hard, that it becomes a mascot for your brand. And it was very known that Jin Sakai was a mascot for PlayStation. He was in their commercials, advertising the PlayStation 5. He was on the front of the box. Anytime you seen anything about PlayStation, you would see Jin Sakai. So it was only natural that fans expected that the next Ghost game was going to include Ghost of Sakai, Jin Sakai. So it became a shock to everyone that when we got the new Ghost game announced, it wasn't Ghost of Tsushima. It was Ghost of Yote starring Atsu. There it is. So that's when all the drama began. The drama doubled when everyone found out that the voice actor for the character Atsu had everyone pre-blocked because she was a woke freak. That doubled it. It became the drama became a little bit more exacerbated once everybody found out, or at least learned about the rumors that Sony Japan had no idea they was going in this direction. We don't know if that's true. That was just a rumor. That was never confirmed. The drama got even more serious when the Charlie Kirk situation happened, and there were developers that were celebrating his death. Okay. Now, me, over here, if you've watched my content, you know that I backed off of this story the moment I realized, or the moment we learned, that the budget for this game was around the same amount as the first game. And we know the budget for the first game was around $60 million, which tells me that the budget for Ghost of Yote was around 80, 90 million. I backed off the story not because I didn't believe, or I changed my mind I was going to play the game. I backed off the story because there's no sense in going around here talking about Ghost of Yote is going to flop, or, you know, a boycott, when the threshold for this game to make money is so low. They're charging $70 a pop. It's the sequel to the best-selling IP in the PlayStation 4 era, or it might have just been in PlayStation all time. The best-selling new IP, I mean. So we know that off the normies alone that are not even plugged in with the drama, they're going to buy the game. So I think with a $60 million budget, selling 1 million copies, they would have been okay. And I knew for a fact, it don't matter how many people boycott, this game was going to sell 1 million units. So it's no point in going around saying the game is a flop if I know it's going to make money, because that's just like, by the definition of what it means to be a flop, that's just not true. It's just not true. So on this side, there's been some coping. I got to be honest with you. I can't lie to you. There's been coping. There's been people. Shout out to my boy Smash JT, and he actually made a video. We're gonna go to that. There's been coping. Yours Torch. You know, somebody mentioned Jay Viper, although I haven't seen much of Jay Viper talking about it. They talked about Smash JT. They talked about a couple other people. There was coping going on where we're trying to bend over backwards to prove that the game is flopping. And we're going to get into the counter argument in just a moment. But me, I've always said that I thought that dying on the hill of Ghost of Yote flopping was not a hill to die on. Now, if you want to say Ghost of Yote not meeting expectations, that conversation can be had about it. We can have that conversation. But to say that this game flopped is disingenuous. Now, on the other side of the fence, you niggas coping as well. And the reason you're coping is because you're running around here with this $3.3 million number as if like this is some historic victory over the Chuds and da-da-da-da-da and woo-woo-woo-woo-woo. No, brother. No. This is not like the huge victory you think it is. The game sold well. But based upon reasonable expectations, is it really? Let's compare it to a game. So let me go to let's go to Google really quick. I did this on New Blackstreet. We're gonna do it again. Okay, let me exit out of some of this stuff because I got a lot going on here. All right. Let's go to Google. Okay. So Monster Hunter World sold 5 million copies in its launch weekend. Okay. For comparison, Monster Hunter Wild sold 10 million units in its first month, surpassing the original. Okay, what's another game? What's another game that was a breakout success? How many units? In its first month, Hollow Knight sold 65,000 copies across Steam, GOG, and Humble bundle. Okay. How many units did Silk Song sell? 6 million. 6 million. What's another game, guys? What's another game that had a breakout release and then the sequel sold a lot? Right? I'm trying to think. It's so many games, bro. It's somebody said it in the chat. There's so many games. Let me think. Um, I'm trying to think. Oh, how many copies did Helldivers 1 sell in the first month? The exact sales figure for Helldivers 1 in its first month is not publicly available, but reports indicate that it sold over 2 million copies in total, and a significant number of those sales occurred in the initial period following its 2015 launch. Okay, what about Helldivers 2? In its first month, Helldivers 2 sold over 12 million copies across PC, PlayStation 5, with the official launch month being February 2024. 12 million. Oh, somebody said Kingdom Come Deliverance. Okay. The original Kingdom Come Deliverance sold 500,000 copies in its first 2 days and over 1 million within its first 2 weeks. With an exact first month total isn't specified, the game has sold 2 million copies after a year after launch. So we'll go with 500,000. Well, what about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? 500,000. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 sold 2 million copies in its first month, with more than 1 million sold within the first 24 hours of release. Do you get where I'm going here? So we brought up multiple examples, right? Somebody said Red Dead Redemption. Let me try Red Dead Redemption. The original Red Dead Redemption did not have its first month sales officially reported, but it was known to have shipped over 11 million copies by 2011. Red Dead Redemption 2, however, sold 17 million copies in its first 2 weeks. Do you get where I'm going here? And then we'll try one more. Mass Effect. How many copies? I'm not interested. The first Mass Effect game sold 473,000 copies in its first month in the United States. Okay, what about Mass Effect 2? Mass Effect sold 2 million copies globally in its first week, not its first month. What about Mass Effect 3? In its first month, Mass Effect, oh shit, that one, hold 890 copies in its first 24 hours and 1.3 million physical copies in the US during March 2012 alone. EA had originally shipped 3.5 million units, and the game sold 349,000 digital copies on PC by the end of March. So You get where I'm going. We're not looking up Andromeda. You get where I'm going here. The point that we're trying to make here is that based on the sales of Ghost of Yote, 2.4 million in the first 3 days. You mean to tell me the sequel could only do 3.3 million in the first month? There's an argument to be made here that, yeah, you sold well, yeah, you made money, but did we grow? Companies don't make sequels and double down on IPs to not grow. Did the IP grow? I'm not sure. I don't know. You can cope all you want to. You can say we're grifters. You can say whatever you want to say. The franchise didn't grow based on what we're seeing here. If Ghost of Yote, not Ghost of Yote, if Ghost of Tsushima sold 2.4 million in the first 3 days, it would be reasonable to assume that the follow-up to Ghost of Tsushima would be able to sell 4, maybe even 5 million in the first month. And all I'm saying is, you cannot convince me that if this would have been Ghost of Tsushima 2 starring Jin Sakai, that this doesn't sell 5, 6, 7 million. There's no way. There's no way. With all of the goodwill that Ghost of Tsushima had gotten, there's just no way. But we don't know for sure, so it's all speculation. It's all speculation. That's all I'm saying. So, I mean, I guess your game, fine. Your game sold well. I mean, it's so decent. But is it a runaway hit? Only because the budget was so low, guys. Only because the budget was so low. See, I had always assumed that the budget for Ghost of Yote was going to be like all the other video game budgets, 150, 200, 250 million dollars. Turns out that's not the case, which is why I backed off of it. I was like, oh yeah, this game is absolutely going to make money because it only cost them 60 million to make, 60 to 80 million to make. So hey, you know what I'm saying? Congratulations, I suppose. But no, like the expectations were absolutely that this game should have broken records. So, hey, you know what I'm saying? Do with that what you will.